Hi, I'm Stephanie Chase.
And I'm Stephanie Rogers.
And welcome to the Kids Ministry Podcast. Yes, where we are equipping kids ministry leaders, teachers from Sundays, Wednesdays, during the week, anytime you're loving kids and leading them to Jesus.
Yes. And we have a special guest today.
Yes.
We're so excited.
Glad to be here.
Yes. Tell us, Dale Hudson's here with us today. Tell us about where you're from and what you do.
Yeah, I live in Kansas City. I live on the Missouri side. It splits right down the middle. And so I have a ministry called Building Children's Ministry that I started 7 years ago. So I travel like this weekend and speak at churches and encourage churches and write articles online and coaching and all that good stuff.
Yes.
So it keeps me busy.
I get your email like every week. I love it. Mm-hmm. It has got some great information in there for kids ministry leaders. What if our listeners want to, if our teachers want to subscribe to that or get that email, how do they do that?
Just go to buildingchildrensministry.com.
Yes.
Buildingchildrensministry.com. You can sign up right there. There's a annoying pop-up box that comes up.
Yes. And it has great information. One that came out recently that I really enjoyed was when you talked about how families are into travel ball and how families and churches are handling travel ball, because I know that's a big thing for us here in Texas.
It is.
So, So how many years have you been in ministry?
35 years.
35?
35 years.
Oh, we thought you were 35, Dale.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
I've been married for 35 years.
Oh, and I think you have two children?
2 boys. One, Josh, is 34. He and his wife, and my 2 grandkids live in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, that's a good vacation spot.
Yeah. Not during the summer, but during the winter. And then my youngest son is Caleb. He's 30. He lives with us in Kansas City area. So we just got dumped on with 18 inches of snow last week. So we're still kind of digging out.
Yeah.
That's what the kids here were wishing for.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. It's nice for a day or two, and then it's like, wow.
Then it's mud.
That's right. Yeah. You're right. So, I've always had a heart for kids ministry. And when I was 16 years old, I wasn't serving at the church, and my youth pastor came and said, hey, would you help in kids ministry? And I was like, I don't think so. All I cared about was cars, my girls, and basketball.
Oh.
But he wouldn't give up. He kept asking me to come back and serve in kids ministry. And so I finally said, okay, and went back, and that was it. God said, this is where I want you to serve for the rest of your life.
Oh, that persistent kids minister.
Yeah. So I actually got to see him for the first, I was up in he's a pastor in Seattle now, and I was in that area speaking, and I got to go, and I didn't tell him I was coming. So I kind of came into the service after it was over and looked around the corner, and he was like, he thought he saw a ghost or something, I guess. But so that's how I got into ministry.
Oh, and if you're a kids minister listening, let this be an encouragement to you to ask students to serve. And don't give up on students. Give up. They have a lot going on in their lives, but pour into them, because we don't know what God's going to do with each little person that's there serving and volunteering and
Those
working.
words of encouragement are just priceless to them. You don't know what they're going through and what they're thinking, and do they want me here? Yes, we want you here. Yes.
Yeah, so true.
For sure. True. Well, Dale, you've written a book on guest services. I hope that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
What is the name of your book?
Be Our Church Guest.
Be Our Guest. Be Our Guest.
Yeah, that's right. There's actually a book called Be Our Guest. I don't know if you've read it or not, by a guy from Disney that talks about all their guest services and stuff. And so I just called the book Be Our Church Guest. And I actually, in the book, I have a lot of principles and things that I've learned from Disney. I don't agree with everything Disney has done or just some of the decisions they've made. They're not a Christian company, but they sure know how to get families. I mean, there's I think this year there'll be 38 million people walk into a Disney park,
and keep coming.
Yes, vast majority are kids and families. Yeah, and so they do have a lot of great ideas that we can learn from when it comes to guest services and making people feel welcome. Because the truth is, people don't compare us to other churches. They compare us to every instance that they have guest services, whether it's at Target or it's at Olive Garden or wherever
Chick-fil-A.
it's at. Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
That's what they're comparing us to, what kind of service they get there. And so don't just think I'm doing okay. I'm better than the church at it that down the street at guest services. Well, no, they're not just talking about the other church. They're talking about all of their guest interaction.
You got to beat out Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have some great principles too, right?
Yeah.
My pleasure. Certain
Yes.
things that they say
Yep.
Yes.
for that. So.
Well, and the thing about if you're listening, like guest services isn't just for the people at the greeter desk. This, is for teachers at the door. Like that's a powerful guest services moment.
Sometimes that can be the most powerful experience that a parent or a family is going to have for the entire time that they're at church. Is it right there at the door?
You're right.
Yeah. So teach us, Dale.
Well, there's a quote in the book I talk about that the guest experience is the sum of all of their interactions with the people on your on your volunteer team. They can have a great experience at the front door, but then if the teacher at the classroom doesn't treat them nice or
Is it grumpy?
Then they will. That's what they'll remember. So I always at one of the local churches I was at, I would ask for feedback from guest families. And I told my team, I don't want all the ones where they say, "Oh, you guys were great, you guys are wonderful." Give me the ones where they're like, "Okay, you dropped the ball on this."
Yeah.
So, by the way, Times Square. We just got past New Year's Eve. Times Square, they failed again at their New Year's Eve party. You know why? Because they keep dropping the ball.
That's good. Good dad
Bad
joke.
dad joke. They keep dropping the ball. But we can have a great experience at the door, but if we drop the ball at the classroom, it's not going to be good. So anyways, I would always tell my team, give me the ones where they say, "Hey, you dropped the ball there." And so one of the ladies said, I came, they were friendly at the front door. They explained safety and security. This is a first-time family. They explained safety and security to us, but when we got to the classroom, the lady at the door never smiled one time.
Oh.
And so we had a training after that about smiling.
Yes.
And, going the second mile to make people feel welcome. So important.
A smile, it says so much.
Yeah.
Like just and that's a simple thing everybody
And it's free.
can do.
It doesn't cost you a thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even this morning as I was flying out of KC to come here, the lady that checked me in was, I don't know if she had had her coffee yet or what, but she never smiled, had no emotions. I asked her a couple of questions. She was very, almost condescending a little bit. And I think that's what stood out to me, and so it's so true. The first impression really is a lasting impression. The truth of the matter is if a family has a bad first experience, I don't care how many times you call them, how many times you text them, they're not going to come back. They're just not going to come back. And so we got to get it right on that first impression, right? I mean, you go to a restaurant and have a bad experience. Your revenge is you just don't go back.
Right.
And you tell other people not to go there. And so that first impression is so, so important. I wrote in the book. In the book, we talk about the questions that guests are asking when they walk up to our building. Where do I go? Are they going to be friendly? Is there going to be anybody here like me? So those are some of the questions there. Where do I go? I love it on your church. I love that you've got the CF kids on the outside of the building, because this morning when I was pulling in, that's what I was looking for. And if I'm a guest coming in with kids, that's what I'm going to be looking for, right? So you guys, kudos to you on that, putting that up on the wall on the outside of the building is really, really important. But yeah, so important. Just a few things that you do not want to say to guests. You don't want to use the word "I don't know." The words "I don't know." You ever been in a store somewhere and you ask the question and they're like, "I don't know," or "That's not my area"? I guess you kind of feel stuck there.
Yeah. What do I do next?
Yeah. What do I do next? And so, don't say "I don't know." Instead, say, "Hey, that's a great question. Let me find out for you."
Yep.
And in the book, I talk about several things like that. Here's what to say and what not to say that'll make guests come back. The national average for guests returning after a first-time visit is about 7%. About 7%. So be interesting to track. I don't know if you guys do that or not. If you're watching this, that would be a good percentage and stat to track, see how many kids are coming back. One thing we did, we were at 7%, and we decided we want to make sure that families come back. And so we decided to spend a little bit of money, and we had created a postcard that they would send to them, a handwritten postcard, and it would say, on your next visit, bring this back for a free T-shirt. Well, it cost us, $5 or $6 per family to do that. It wasn't a small budget thing, but when we did that, our return rate went from 7% to 38%. So it was worth the investment to get those families back the second time. But everybody on the team is part of your guest experience.
Yeah.
They say the sermon starts in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Sermon starts in the parking lot. And so we want to, when you go to Target or Walmart and you're circling, and once in a while there'll be a front spot come open and you like zoom in there and you're like, I can't believe I got such a good parking spot. And you walk into the building, feeling positive.
Yes.
And so that's when I know that you do have guest services. I saw your guest services things out there, but it's so important that they get those good parking spots. It's kind of funny. I've seen some churches where, and I know they mean well, and if you do this here, I'm not trying to offend you, but they'll have reserved parking for the pastor, like the best parking spot at the building. And I was serving in a church in Vegas, and the pastor there said that, we're not going to reserve the parking for the staff. We want that to be for guests. And so we were the ones that had to park in the worst parking possible. And we saved those front spots for our guests, right? Because they say that people decide in the first 8 minutes if they're going to come back or not. The first 8 minutes they decide.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you don't want them spending those 8 minutes circling in the parking lot, trying to find a parking spot.
Right.
And maybe giving up and going. Yeah, not even entering the building.
I've seen that happen before, for sure. I was consulting with one church, and they were needing to add more parking, and the pastor was a genius. He took a drone, or had somebody in the church take a drone and fly it up, and you could see the video footage of a couple cars coming in, couldn't find a spot, and left. And so as he presented that to the church, he said, this is why we've got to raise the money for more parking, because families don't have a place to park. I think it's great also to have preschool parking, for preschool parents. I know North Point, they were the first church that I knew or saw did this. They have preschool parking, just like they have guest parking. Because we forget what it's like to be a preschool mom and trying to get them out of the car and get the stroller.
The diaper bags.
And then you don't want them walking through the rain, all that way. So I thought that was really smart.
That is
to
smart.
have preschool parking. But
yes.
There's a few of the tips, but it's interesting. Yeah, some of the things I talk about in the book like I said, Disney does a great job at guest services. I had a friend that was at Disney Park with his little toddler, and the toddler got sick and spit up, and they had forgot to bring an extra change of clothes with them. And they were standing like right outside one of the stores there, and one of the open stores. And this girl came out of the store, one of the employees, cast members, with a brand new outfit, and said, "Hey, I saw you don't have clothes for her to change into here. This is this is yours." So I thought that was awesome. Going that second mile is really, really important. You can't. I always say you do for the one what you can't do for everybody. So here's one thing I did to go the second mile. I just love exceeding people's expectations, like blowing them away. And so we had a new family come in. I would talk to them as we were taking them to the classroom and ask the kid, hey, what's your favorite kind of candy? Or what sport do you play? We'd get them checked in, and I would jump in my car and run over to Target or Walmart. And so we had one kid that loved basketball and M&Ms. And so after we got him checked in, I ran over in my car to Target and grabbed a physical basketball.
Oh, my goodness.
And a huge bag of M&Ms and put it in the back. And when his parents, first-time guests, came to pick him up, I said, "Hey, I know you like basketball and M&Ms. Here, this is a gift from us." And they were just like blown away.
What?
I can't do that for everybody.
Right.
But I love
for the one.
going the second mile. Just that'll make a big impression on people.
Yes. And the Holy Spirit will prompt you.
Lead you to who's the one.
Who's the one that you need to, and we got to be sensitive to that.
Yeah.
And for teachers, it's hard to do when you're in the classroom with 10, 12, 15 kiddos, but being sensitive and recognizing those first time kiddos. Make sure as teachers in the classroom, you recognize them, connect with them, and then say, "Hey, what is it that you love?" And because teachers could do that.
Sure.
Yeah. And the next time they come back. Or I even thought while you were talking about the postcards, because we have postcards printed that teachers can handwrite. teachers could handwrite and say, hey, the next Sunday you come back, you're going to get in the treasure box, or because I just saw a treasure box this morning is what made me think of it.
Right.
But, teachers could even take ownership for that in their classroom to engage with those first-time guests and families and to get them coming back.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes God calls us to go the second mile. There in the Bible, it talked about the soldier, and the context where Jesus said that. They were required by law to carry that soldier's gear for, I think, a mile. And he said, go the second mile, carry it another mile. And that's what exceeds people's expectations. But, yeah, I'd just say volunteers, your interaction with those first-time families is so, so important. And you may not be, quote, on the guest services team, but you really are on the guest services team. Yep. And anything you can do to make that child feel welcome and loved and appreciated makes a huge, huge difference. And the parents. I know it's crazy busy when you're trying to get kids checked out and stuff, but if you can just connect with that young family just for a minute and say, hey, so glad you came, and we're glad you're here, and we hope that you'll come back, makes a big deal. We started doing the postcards. We had our guest services team actually would be the ones that would write those out, because they were the ones that had the interaction with that first-time family. So after the family, left and was getting checked in, when they got a minute, they would write a handwritten postcard out.
That's good.
And try to mention something very specific to that family. Let's say they just moved here from Pittsburgh, and you find that out as you're talking with them. In the note, maybe write, hey, glad the move from Pittsburgh. That way they know this is not just some mass production. They do send everybody the same exact words. But,
stamped.
Man, they remembered me and the conversation that we had. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, making it personal makes a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Well, any last minute tips? I know we're about to run out of time that you would want to give us to encourage us to, help families come back. And, because families need Jesus.
Amen.
Especially in today's world.
And looking through the week, the week can get so chaotic, and things can flood your week as a family and as a parent. And to have the memory of, I need to go back to that church. What are some good ways to help families re-engage and come back a second time?
Sure. And families, they remember how you made them feel.
That's huge.
How did you make them feel? Did you make them feel welcomed? Or that you just kind of brushed them aside and, or that they were a bother or something to you. Mm-hmm. So I think making sure you understand that how you make them feel is a big difference. And just be friendly. Just smile. And, I always say you don't want your greeters to be the Wicked Witch of was the Wicked Witch the West or East?
West.
The West. You don't want her in your guest services team. So your best people should be in your guest services team. Mm-hmm. Really, really important. Yeah, I would just say just make them feel welcome and do follow up. I'm not saying show up at their door, but a postcard and maybe a text message or a phone call makes a
we found text messaging is great. People respond. We call each week, but we find that if you call, leave a voicemail, and then you text, everybody's like, oh, hey, right away. And you can connect quickly. Yeah. And so for teachers here at Champion Forest, once your first-time guests arrive, Mary will be emailing you all of their information on Monday so that you can reach out to that parent, call, text, send a postcard, whichever way you want to do it. But as a team, we want to make the whole experience amazing for families.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
And that even means when we put the roster in your classroom with all of the addresses for the month, send the kids that come all the time a note. Let them know.
Remind them.
Hey, I'm so glad you're in my class. I love that you're in my class. I can't wait to see you this coming Sunday. Or we heard you were sick and we missed you, and we can't wait to see you when you come back. So those kids need the same love and attention too.
That's so important for sure. It's a big deal for a kid to get mail. We don't. We get 5 credit card applications a day in the box. But for a kid to get a mail is huge. Yeah.
They love it.
And on the text messaging thing, I read that 98% of text messages get read. 98%. I think it's like 96% in the first minute or two.
Right. Wow.
So that's they're going to read it.
Yes, they will.
They will read it. So it's really, really
And
good
don't
way.
be discouraged if they don't reply.
Right.
Because they know you've reached out. They know you care. They know you're taking that next step.
It's kind of like when we reach out to see if you're going to serve this Sunday and you just look at it really quick. It's kind of like that. You're coming. We know you're coming, but the parents are coming and they just need that word of encouragement that, they cared. They cared enough to send something to me. And when you're in the school line or when you're, fixing lunches and making dinner and you're at work and somebody from work called, those moments mean a lot, even if they don't get to reply to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one other thing for us to remember is God is bringing these families to our church for a reason.
Yeah.
And we want to, take that seriously, that He's, entrusted us with their lives, with their souls. And so we want to do all that we can to serve them in honor of serving Jesus.
Yes.
Good.
So, yes. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Today, we hope you learned a lot. Be sure to check out
Building Children's Ministry.
buildingchildrensministry.com and get the book if you haven't already. I know we've already given it to our guest services team. So,
And sign up for the newsletter.
yes, sign up for the newsletter. And we will see you next time.